All right, good morning, everyone. We typically couple together at the European conferences or in the States to talk a little bit about maybe future of simulation. And we brought a little part of this talk to Simpo, to Brno. We already got introduced, Misha. We already got introduced, so next to me there is Joachim, CEO and co-founder of SimStation. I believe that SimStation is well known in Czechoslovakian environment. And I'm Jiří Travinec, yes, Deputy Director for Technology. Okay, let's skip these. It's really lacking. My dear team, it's really lacking. All right, so we are bringing a bold, I would say bold statement. Maybe for some of you it's like, of course, statement. For some of you it might be a bold statement. And we are coming with saying simulation centers will be the research and development testbed for tomorrow's medicine. So why do we think that? And actually thanks Mark for mentioning some of the concepts in his presentation. So we will a little bit continue on Mark's presentation. So let's go a little bit back and think about simulation centers for teaching. So why do we love simulation centers? Because it's a repeatable and predictable environment. So we can put every student into the same situation. It's a safe and controlled setting, so we know what will happen. The training gets standardized, we can objectively measure that, and yes, the immediate feedback and debriefing is very important thing about the teaching. So that's why we build simulation centers for teaching. And the general goal here is to eventually make safer and better clinical care. So that's the reason why we have simulation centers. But from perspective of research and development needs, it's the same somehow. So what the research really needs is controlled and reproducible environment to do their research and development. They need safe and neutral space, standardized methodology, quantifiable outcomes, and real-time observation interaction. You see, we have everything in place to do research and development. And what we need by research and development, you might have different ideas. So we could be talking about in-house research, like Ph.D. studies or something like this. But we can be also talking about supporting some companies in their research and development. So maybe if you explain this one, or should I go further?
Just go.
Okay.
Continue.
So this is a typical thing in simulation teaching, how we see the simulation. So we always had the theoretical teaching in the classrooms with books and so on. And then we always had the clinical praxis, either during the university teaching or when you eventually get to your work, right? And the way we see it, that the simulation is in middle. It's bridging between the theoretical teaching and clinical praxis by bringing the practical skills. Okay, let's again talk about R&D. So how is it with R&D? And again, it's the same. It's bridging, let me say prototype. It's bridging the product. It's bridging the idea between the development phase somewhere in-house with the developers, with ideas, with theoretical ideas basically. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we want to have a clinical application. We want to affect the clinical field. And simulation centers could be sitting in the middle, right? Could be doing the preclinical validation and so on. All right, to prove that even more. So let me say, universities are designed for teaching, right? That's why we are here. And we have qualified human resource. We have specialized equipment and very here at Simu, but other simulation centers as well, beautiful facility. And as I mentioned at the first slide, this is a safe and controlled environment. So learners are practicing here without risk. We do have a lot of equipment, academic staff, technical specialties. And think about research and development. What actually research and development needs? They need an expertise personnel, which we have. We just call them researchers and interdisciplinary teams, but quite typically the same team, right? They need an infrastructure to work in, and yeah, we have the simulated rooms, we have the labs, we have high fidelity simulation rooms, and then many others, depending on what we want to achieve. And yes, again, we have safe and controlled spaces to conduct the research. But there is one more very important.
Well, there's a fact that I noticed. The more you go out, I mean, I think every one of you has noticed it. When you talk to someone else, it might be a colleague, it might be a doctor, it might be a colleague from a different specialty at your university. They are very often not aware that these simulation centers exist, that these spaces exist. We are pretty much living in a bubble here in simulation education, and that's very interesting because if they only knew what a useful infrastructure there would be to collaborate with you on their studies, be it human factor studies, be it that there are many disciplines at each university that, if they only knew that this space exists, would immediately collaborate with you and do meaningful research. Instead, very often they immediately think about the real clinic, that we need to get some territory there, we need to set up our experiments there, our study there, which is very difficult to access. And very often you only get messy data because the real clinic is messy. It's not so controllable in structure as your simulation center is. And this is something very interesting. I realized that we have now, with SimStation, we've equipped around 600 to 700 simulation centers all across the world. And for many, many years, I've considered each and every single project as an individual project. Well, we equip them with our software and our audiovisual systems, and that's my main goal, to provide them with the greatest system. And now, after more than a decade of doing that, I'm looking at it. Suddenly, it came to my mind. Actually, about a year ago, I realized these are hundreds of simulation centers with thousands of simulation rooms. And what would happen if they could be connected? Just have, let's say, if I had a dream, I would want them to be connected to a universal R&D network, something that could be enabled if anyone wants to make a usability study, like. You could opt in and say, okay, I'm going to be part of it, and I'm doing that study as well. So just think about the huge potential that would have. And I wonder why it's not happening. By the way, I'm trying to enable that. You will hopefully hear from SimStation and from me in the next few years. We're trying to build such a worldwide R&D network because interestingly, SimStation has the infrastructure, so we could be a facilitator because we're recording all of these simulation trainings on behalf of our customers. But that's just something I wanted to convey. It's once you've had that thought, you cannot unsee it anymore. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, there is one more, and yeah. So the healthcare simulation is costly. To really prove the idea again about research and development at the universities, we all know it. There is a very well-known sentence from Petr Štourač that don't really think that your courses will be paid by the ones who are attending the courses. Mm-hmm. So yes, eventually you have to get the university fundings if you're a university simulation center or any kind of grants or donations. But then think about when you have research and development at your university simulation center, you might get paid research or industry collaborations. You might do the certification and training programs. It's an opportunity to get really nice, maybe European grants as well. And there is one more that I don't think that many people think of, and these are long-term return of investment possibilities, like spin-offs, like licensing or patents. These things can come from these kind of researches, and definitely the simulation centers can be and maybe should be part of it.
When you say licensing, do you mean licensing data?
The intellectual property mostly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. I know what you think, but I skipped that idea. All right. So little interaction, if I may. Okay.
I'll talk about it.
All right.
Because it's a huge thing, and I want to mention it.
All right.
There's one. No, just go back.
Should I?
In the term of licensing, I would mention another potential that I see. And that's the data that you produce every day. So currently, I assume most of you are recording the simulation scenarios. Currently, I assume you're deleting them after the debriefing. There's no more use for it. And I'm pretty convinced that these data are very valuable. There could be a great use for them. And I have a concrete idea that I'm currently exploring. I'm talking to Google engineers, so real people at Google, they exist, that create the large language models for healthcare conversation and healthcare AI. And the interesting thing is, as we all know, the future clinic will be the future workplace, the future clinic will be full of AI. But the point is, all this AI that's going to come, and there's a lot of AI that will listen and speak and watch things and process them intelligently and speak back and maybe advise you on what's the next good thing to do and things like that. So you can't just create this AI, just task a developer by developing this AI and then throw it into the clinic. It's not like that. AI needs training. So the whole way this technical works is these models need to be trained on real data or on data. And I personally think the data that we all produce in those simulation centers are perfectly suited to train AI models. So what I'm trying to find out is how we can link that, how I can facilitate that so that we can possibly all earn from it. Because it has a huge potential, because that's like basically the most valuable thing you can offer right now is data that facilitate AI training. The other thing is these AI tools, they need to be tested before they are released to the clinic. And there again, I think we have those R&D, those test beds for the intelligent future tools of the clinic. And after all, they are also medical devices. They are considered a medical device once they get into the clinic. That means they really need expensive and thorough medical certification, device certification. So I think simulation centers could also provide something like a certification framework for the future digital tools that are thrown in the clinic. So all of these are huge revenue potentials. That's the way I see it as a businessman, but that's really what I'm trying to facilitate in the future through our network of customers.
Yeah, and I thought we will skip this bump. Okay, so that's basically true. The only thing we have to really consider is the possible anonymization of the data and things like this. And we have a different talk about it. So definitely, if that's what interests us, feel free to find us after the presentation, because that's a huge another topic, and we were talking about it at CSEM for an hour. And yeah. Mm-hmm. So a little engagement from your side. So I have two questions on you. Feel free to raise your hands. So who works in a simulation center or lab or basically university that conducts any form of research, development, or innovation, anything that is beyond teaching? So you don't just teach, you do something extra. So feel free to raise your hands. Yeah, my colleagues. That's still one. All right, I'm not really sure I want to continue with the next one. So he's involved in R&D and innovation that actually has an impact in actual clinical practice. Yeah, us little 3D printing. All right, so maybe this could be a motivation presentation for you, where to find next possible return of investments, where we can go beyond teaching and what our simulation centers can do as well. And to prove that, I would like to tell a little bit about the history of simulation. You all know it, so just a little overview. So the modern simulation, we can say that it starts somewhere around 1950s, 60s, 70s, with the legendary Resuscitation. Even Michael Jackson was thinking about it in the Smooth Criminal song, "And Are You Okay?" And then we got the very first simulators. And these simulators were very driven by the clinical needs, what the clinicians needed, and were used obviously at the clinics. The first fields were anesthesiology and emergency medicine involved in that. And then we slowly moved to the 90s when we finally, we get the full body high fidelity mannequins we know today. We start to have enough equipment for computer-based simulations, first laparoscopy box trainers, first simulation centers. So here in 90s, we see the sudden change going from clinics to first simulation centers, first specialized facilities focused on teaching using simulators. And then somehow a recent history, right? So in zero years, we see the societies being established and growing. It was noting that CSAM is older than the American counterpart, which was established only in 2004. That really worth mentioning. And there is a shift from technical skills and skills trainers to high fidelity simulations, to teamwork and human factors topics. And debriefing established as a central educational method. And when we are going closer to today's, we've been working with more complex and technological advanced things like VR and AR, virtual reality, augmented reality, topics like serious games, complex high fidelity mannequins based on physiological models. And obviously this is time of race of separated simulation centers as institutions. And here we are today in 2020s, and I decided to go with the gold color because I believe this is golden times of simulation from perspective of technology, from perspective of educational potential, from all the perspectives. And there is a huge amount of topics we've been dealing with. And these topics are emerging into clinical sphere, but already through the simulation centers or simulation medicine. So we came from being part of the clinics and practicing on the clinics into creating simulation labs, into fully established simulation centers. And suddenly we might be at the edge of being able to conduct research for clinical use case later. And there's a lot of topics to focus on, to name obviously artificial intelligence. So there is a quite great question, like, so all the doctors will maybe use artificial intelligence. Who will teach them to use the artificial intelligence correctly? Will they have time at the clinics?
Oh yeah. I think that can only happen in simulation centers. So every one of you, think about doing human AI interaction studies. It's a very exciting field. So how do doctors deal when they are advised by AI, when they consult AI? Maybe when they get wrong consultation from AI, how do they deal with that? So a very exciting topic all around. And I have another one. How do we deal with the future AI-informed patient? So
that's a great one. Yes.
We've been dealing with the patient Googling his diagnosis or guessing by Googling. But already now, and all the more next year and in 3 years, this patient will come pre-diagnosed by his preferred AI tool. The probability is very high that he has the right diagnosis in hand and also a very good therapy for it. And you, as a doctor, became basically the defender of that you still need to try to carefully find out if he actually has that and if that is actually the right treatment. And you will have to negotiate with the patient. Because so the times of the gods in white definitely come to an end now, at latest with the AI. And I think all the staff of the hospital needs to be trained on that. So I would be very excited to see my customers training scenarios where the fully AI informed patient stresses the doctor because he wants him to verify the diagnosis he expects him to do. So I think very interesting and challenging situations for a lot of people in the clinics coming up that we can train in the hospital.
Yeah, definitely. So to little bit summarize that, we are getting to the end of the idea. So there's a huge opportunity for the simulation centers, for healthcare simulation field to shape the future of clinical medicine. And we've already spoken about all of these. You even opened the topic of the AI tools. So definitely testing new medical devices. I'm even talking about MDR certifications. There has to be people to do that. Why they shouldn't be at the simulation centers where they have all the possible equipment, human resources, and so on. And there has been many mentioned. Also, Mark mentioned one of the topics there could be part of this. And the list can continue. Clinical procedure innovations, risk-free patient research. We had been talking quite about products and things like this, but we also have to think about training and certifications and so on, which can be tested in simulated environment and then translated to clinical field, like you mentioned again and again. I really like that one. And so the conclusion, the take-home message.
Well, I'm just still thinking about your the golden age of simulation slide, and I totally agree with that. So I believe we are now at the verge of a complete transformation. So another way to look at the history of simulation would be the idea was always to mirror the real clinic. So we've got to create an environment that mirrors what's really going on at the health workplace, and there we do good and intelligent education and teaching around of that. So we invented the scenarios and the multidisciplinary and the single task and the interdisciplinary and the debriefing, and all of this is great and efficient. But the idea always was we need to mirror what's going on in the clinic. So we need to watch what's happening in the clinic, and then we need to reproduce it afterwards in the simulation center and somehow deal with it and teach with it. And I think we're now on the verge. We're getting ahead of this curve. I think we're transforming from mirror to engine. I think we'll become an engine, the pioneers of how the future clinic will look like. Because with all these digital tools that need to be tested in development before they're applied in the real clinic, I think we are the labs that can play a decisive role in that. And that's the next age I see. And that was my conclusion as well.
No, yeah. That was the idea behind it. That was the whole reason I put there the history. Okay. And thank you for saying that very explicitly. Yes, that's the idea behind it. And that's why I mentioned that little details. So, Michal, we are really struggling with the So simulation centers, let me read that. Nah. Simulation centers can serve as testing grounds for all new medical technologies. That's a fact. Collaboration with healthcare technology companies is here to develop and refine future clinical decision support systems. That's what we want to explain. And it's a revenue opportunity for simulation centers, which might be very exciting. So that's the role of the simulation centers. What are the benefits for anyone conducting research and development in simulation centers? Where should it happen in here? Safe environment to test, well-equipped, enhanced training. And we skip that very one. It's not regulated by any means. So when you go to a hospital, you are already under a lot of regulations and real hospital life. It's not happening in here. That's why it's great environment. Mm-hmm. And that's the last slide. We have time for questions.
Thank you.